thank you very much for joining us. Right, let's have a look at what's happening in the rural real estate market where, we were talking last time we talked to Conrad Wilkshire, GM of Rural Property Brokers. We were talking about dairy land going from 28,000 a hectare through to 42,000 a hectare. Let's find out what's happening now. Conrad, good morning.
Yeah, look, thanks, Hamish. Good morning, Dom. It's good to be on the show. And yeah, rural real estate is always a busy time. I think you listeners might not appreciate, but about a third of all rural sales actually happens through the autumn. And in fact, season on season in the autumn, we do about anywhere between 25 and 30% of our sales. So yeah, it's even with some indifferent season down south, and it's been rather dry down there in quite a remarkable way. And then you've also got the seasonality up on the east coast where those poor guys have been hammered with the rains and had a very difficult time. But despite all that, we are still seeing a lot of inquiry coming forward, and it is typical of this time of year.
So what are the numbers looking like in terms of prices and the number of farms that are being sold coming to the market? Yeah,
look, it's firming year on year, and look, if we have a look at total sales as we work through the season, you look at sheep and beef sales there on a comparative basis by number of sales, it's operating annualised at similar levels, but what we're seeing is prices firming.
Yeah.
And also demand for quality finishing properties, and that can include dairy systems, but actually that may be deconverted, but actually properties that are actually in sheep and beef production now that have significant area of flat land and have good production history and good soil types, good fencing, well set up for finishing, they are really sought after at the moment and commanding good premiums.
Conrad, is that somebody taking a punt on the future, or is it because people believe that the numbers that are strong now will continue to be so?
I think flat ground overall is going to be viewed as being at a premium in terms of alternative land use options and versatility of land use. I think that is definitely part of it, but also you look at the premiums paid for a finished product, and that's been that way for a while now, and the balance sheets of the whole country pastoral businesses are in good heart, and they're looking at their options. And so if they're going to go long, do they buy another station next door, or do they buy a property that can actually add value to the station they've already got? And sometimes it's both, but I think there is a really strong demand for quality finishing country where they can take their product right through, and often in a different climate zone to the one they're operating, to be able to manage the volatility of climate. And I think that's a big factor. I really do.
Yeah. Conrad, one of the things in the last, I guess over the period of about 6 months that really stood out for me was the number of dairy farms that were being sold, but that at least at that stage, this is probably 2 or 3 months ago, 50% of them weren't actually staying in dairying. Is that still a trend that's continuing?
I think you need to circle around. If you look at Southland, Canterbury, Taranaki, Waikato, typically those farms are going dairy to dairy.
Yep.
But outside of those four, if you like, pillars of the dairy sector, and there's a lot of strong dairying around the country outside of those regions, but there's also a lot of very strong sheep and beef production systems as well. So that the competition for land in those areas outside of the dairy strongholds is there. Southland is a bit different, obviously, because you've got very strong sheep and beef production systems down there. But if you take the Waikato, Taranaki, it's heavily dominated by dairy. And similarly, in Canterbury, you've got arable farm systems and dairy systems dominating the majority of the flats. So that's. Yeah, that is definitely the case where you are seeing demand coming there. But outside of those areas, we're definitely seeing that demand from beef production systems, particularly wanting to be able to take stock forward and hedge the climate we spoke about before.
Okay, the property brokers team, they're pretty busy right across the country with the rural boys then.
Yeah, we've got our rural outlook there. It went out to about 70,000 plus postal boxes around the country, and we've had a really good response to that promotion. And vendors some really good quality listings coming forward from literally from the far north to the deep south. And so, and I think it's always a difficult time of year for vendors as to what they might be doing if they've made a decision about the next steps and they're looking for a strategy to either consolidate their holdings or exit their business, then as to whether you do it there in the autumn or the spring. And a lot of it sometimes comes down to labour and what the labour arrangements are. But there's no doubt we're actually working on concluding a number of listings at the moment that actually have come to the market very smartly and have been sold very quickly with strong buyer interest. So there is still an opportunity to make the most of the season, even with obviously labour management decisions having to be made. So that's all part of the mix, as you know, Hamish.
Yeah, is it newcomers coming into farming, or is it traditional farmers, like you said, the high country farm buying the flatland?
Yeah, I think there's definitely room for new entrants to come in, and we are seeing that particularly with smaller holdings, so under 100 hectares. And there's been, I think, quite a windfall for people who might have had a 5 to 20 hectare lifestyle block, and they've been able to sell that for a really, really good profit, and actually apply that to scaling up their business and getting a much more economic, more viable operation with all the tax efficiencies that go with that. So there's definitely that market has been operating, and that's been very apparent this season. But if you're talking the large scale operations, when you're talking $8, $9, $10 million for a station these days, the market does thin out, and you probably do need to come from a strong base to be able to make that work, and that's reality, and I don't see that reality changing anytime soon.
Rightio, great stuff, Conrad. Before you go, everything good? What, you good in the Manawatu too? What's that part of the country like at the moment?
Well, always good in the Manawatu too. We've had a little bit of rain
today,
which we actually desperately need. Though not many people around the country will probably believe that, but we actually have been quite dry here for a little bit. So a welcome rain, and I think for many parts of the country, a bit more moisture will be very welcome indeed, because soil temperature will start to drop shortly, and we'll start to run out of growing days, unless you're the mighty Waikato or something like that.
Yeah.
What a wonderfully learned conversation that I've just borne witness to, gentlemen. Well done. That was outstanding. It was really very, very good. I just sat back and had my fourth cup of coffee for the morning and just listened in there. It was it was great.
All I can say is that from Conrad's end of from being in the Bachelor of Agricultural top 5% of the class in 1985, being interviewed by the bottom 5%. I just hope that Conrad thinking, gee, McKay's lifted his game in the last 37 years.
I don't think you're in the same results class as that, because I don't remember seeing those results flow through, Hamish. I think that performance might be a tad overstated for any of my good mates listening in. Yeah. But
well, you weren't one of those guys who were fortunate enough to have access to the notes from the class the year before. So you and I actually had to do the hard yards.
No.
Yeah, we won't name anybody. Yeah. Good stuff.
But, no, it's all good, and good to hear from you, Dom. And so new show format working well for you, so well done.
Yeah, good
Thank
stuff.
you. Yeah,
fantastic.
It's good stuff. Thanks, mate.
Right, there we go. That is Conrad Wilkshire, GM of Rural Property Brokers, joining us here on the Saturday edition of